This is David Aronovich, and he runs a show called The Briefing Room, which I'm assuming from the sort of page it's supposed to be quite a prestigious show. And he made a naughty tweet. The tweet looked like this. I'll speak about it after I've told you that I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. Okay, this is the tweet. If I was Biden, and that's criminal in itself, that should be if I were Biden, and he's supposed to be a BBC presenter. No sense of basic grammar. Okay, if I was Biden, I'd hurry up and have Trump, and I'm not going to use that word because maybe YouTube will hold it up or something. But anyway, I'd have Trump done away with, yeah, on the basis that he's a threat to America's security. And he hashtagged SCOTUS, which is the Supreme Court of the United States. So he put that. I think he thought that might have been a joke. It was a very ill-considered one. But that's not what I'm talking about. The fact that the guy has a digital big mouth is neither here nor there. And he's now deleted it, and everybody in the media has forgotten about it. And I just saw a video that Dan Wootton made, a rather quick video, in which he pointed out that Dan Wootton, was hounded and sacked from the TV show he was presented because a guest on his show, Lawrence Fox, said he didn't want to... he didn't, I'm quoting now, he didn't want to shag Ava Evans. And when he made this throwaway comment, it was reported on the news as a terrible crime. For days there was nothing but news about what Lawrence Fox had said about that. And basically what you could see was that the BBC was getting revenge on Fox for speaking out during Question Time. He was one of the panel on Question Time, and some woman made some black victimhood type question, and Lawrence Fox told her, basically, in rather reasonable language, to get stuffed. And the BBC, who are increasingly in love with restrictions on freedom of speech, as well as the culture of victimhood, both of which have become the BBC's bread and butter, by the way. They make one show about it after another. They realised that Fox was resonating with a lot of people, and they had their sights on him. And he definitely had to be slapped down. So he gave them the opportunity in the way he said it. Wootton was sacked for the words of a guest making an off-colour joke about not having sex with a minor journalist. Right, let's just have a look at this. She is such a minor journalist that shortly after the incident, the Evening Standard ran a piece about her which starts, "Who is Ava Evans?" And they had to talk about her. This was in October. Ava Evans, a political correspondent, has been caught up in a media storm after she was publicly subjected to a vitriolic attack by Lawrence Fox. It wasn't a vitriolic attack. And furthermore, Ava Evans had already made several X's or tweets or some sort of social media post about not wanting to shag various other people in the news or in politics. So that was something she already used, and it's probably something that was in Laurence Fox's mind when he said, who would want to shag her? In fact, he said something like he wouldn't want to climb into bed with that woman. And then, talking about her attitudes, he said, who would want to shag that? Meaning more her politics than her in context. Look, it was crude, it wasn't nice, it wasn't funny, all the rest of it, and he should have been reprimanded. But that's as far as it should have gone. And there's Ava Evans actually had the cheek to go onto the news and say that she felt demeaned by that. The fact that a man she insists she has no feelings for whatsoever and wouldn't want to have any sort of physical contact with, and then she says she feels demeaned because he says the same thing about her. So Fox was sacked, and then Dan Wootton was sacked. So that's Ava Evans. It says here, Ava Evans is a journalist who currently works as the political correspondent for the news platform Joe. Have you heard of Joe? Yeah, me neither. She usually covers topics such as trade unions and stories about Westminster. And she's been propelled into the spotlight after Fox launched a misogynistic rant about the journalist after she addressed the topic of male suicide. And what happened was this. Laurence Fox was talking earlier about a minister for men. There's a minister for women, which I think is a nonsense as well. And he said, why isn't there a minister of for men? Men are the ones most likely to commit suicide. They're the ones most likely to have psychiatric and psychological problems, all the rest of it. And Ava Evans was very flippant, you know, men can manage on their own type of attitude. And that's another thing that Laurence Fox was angry about. And he had every right to be angry. And what she said was, mental illness is a crisis that's endemic throughout the country, not specific to men. And I think a lot of ministers bandy this about to, I'm sorry, make an enemy out of women. Well, I don't know, maybe make an enemy out of you, Miss Evans. But I, as a woman, do not feel that I'm being made an enemy of when I see young men are committing suicide. As a matter of fact, I have a friend whose son committed suicide. It was awful. It was awful. And what that woman suffered in the aftermath. She found the body. And this woman is just, flipping it away. Well, Fox talking about that has not made an enemy out of me. And I feel very strong. Well, yeah, I suppose you could see I feel quite strongly about that. Statistically, men are the most adventurous and reckless in society, and there is a place for adventure and recklessness. But sometimes it goes too far. And occasionally it goes too far in the range of criminality, or it goes too far in the range of destructive self-harm. Women harm themselves as well, but generally speaking, they stop short of killing themselves. Nature planned it that way. Women, as the breeders of the next generation, are more valuable to nature than men. You only need a couple of men, but you do need a lot of women. And I'm not bigging myself up in that way. I'm just pointing out that this is a very, very basic, sort of lizard brain part of our mentality. or we wouldn't survive to this great height of civilization, would we? Anyway, it says here, Ofcom finds GB News broke the rules when Lawrence Fox demeaned the journalist. And so what we have here is the whole of the establishment piling in on Lawrence Fox and then on Dan Wootton, because it never stops with just one, does it? They piled in on that because they wanted to get at these people. They wanted to get at Lawrence Fox for being cheeky on Question Time, and they wanted to get at GB News, and so they decided to make it difficult for them to keep Dan Wootton. And then they say former actors' comments about who would want to shag female reporter, unambiguous, misogynistic. OK, so what do they say when David Aronovich talks about having Trump assassinated? Is that not unambiguously murderous? I think it is. If Fox's joke was unambiguously misogynistic, it wasn't, by the way. Fox was talking about misandrists, basically, like Ava Evans, whereas this guy is actually calling for murder. And what do we hear from the left on this? People in The Guardian, people on the BBC. Yeah, crickets. OK, well, yes, that's... I just had to say this. Dan Wootton made a video about it, pointing out this two-tier policing of language, the hypocrisy of the left and all the rest of it. He said he's glad he's off these various platforms. I'm sure he isn't. He's definitely been silenced in a way that he wouldn't have been if he'd kept his job there with them. But, of course, you've got to sell your soul to keep your job in those sorts of situations. So he may not be that happy about being off there, but his soul is probably in better shape than it would have been. All right, that's it. Till next time. You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you.